And I can tell you that a motorcycle with constant throttle is a very, very stable thing. And an operator sits on it and stuffs it up, because every one of these is a stuff up. And any good rider, Mark Marquez, Toby Price, whatever, they've got the hang of this pretty good, right? And they treat it like a scalpel. They're like a brain surgeon, and they are precise. So, did a few exercises when I was doing some recce's on the new water-cooled bikes that have cruise control. The original ones, when you were in cruise control, wouldn't work in the enduro modes, so you put it in road mode, turn ABS and traction off, ride along down some of the tracks that we did today and worse, and you set cruise control. And you stand on the middle of the bike and you just hold the tips of the mirrors like this.
Wow.
And the thing just wants to go. That constant power to the back wheel, it's a beautiful thing. It's almost like you see races, GP races, fall off bikes and the bike keeps going. These bikes have their idle set high, they're getting a little bit of throttle, and the bike will just go and go and go without an operator. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, sand is like riding slippery clay, wet grass, gravel, so many different things. The idea of a motorbike rider is you've got this bike that's designed so well it wants to go. Your job is to keep it balanced, side to side, front to back, yeah? Like a 360-degree gyroscope, foot pegs and handlebars. Like a surfer, like you're just fluid. Your bike is balanced. If we walk around at 1200 out here and you can hold it with one finger, do a full circle around it, as long as it's vertical, it's weightless. So the better you can keep it balanced, the lighter it is. Some people can't ride a 250 in sand, and some people can, and so on. It's about balancing a bike. So as a rider, your job is to keep it balanced. And Lego Man doesn't keep a bike balanced very well. So you got to get loose on the bike and, just keep it balanced like a gyroscope. So that's why we always push the idea of just being relaxed on the bike. Standing up is a good thing, but then you've got to be at one with its balance point. And on bitumen and on firm dirt, the wheels stay pretty straight. But on sand and gravel, it shimmies, like a shopping wheel trolley that's just got a shimmy, That's what it does. It doesn't get any worse a lot of the time if you don't frig with the throttle. If you get like this every time it shimmies, you are just wrecking the whole design of the motorbike. So when it does get a bit unstable, just keep the throttle constant and keep the bike balanced. And it'll just shimmy, maybe a bit harder, and then maybe it'll settle down. There are times to add throttle in sand, when you're going along nice little sand and then it gets deeper, or there's been a four-wheel drive, done a U-turn and it gets a bit ugly. Obviously a little bit more throttle will just drive through something that's trying to shake the bike around. So who's done an off-road training course of some description? That's really good. Do more of them, because it will help and help and help. The things we teach, standing position, rear brake skids, front brake skids, tight circles, slow riding, all of those things are what you need to ride sand. It's not like, okay, don't teach me any of that stuff, just teach me how to ride sand. You've got to be at one with the motorcycle from a balance point of view, from a control point of view, from an input point of view. Smooth, good, precise inputs keeps a bike balanced. This turns a bike into an unhappy thing that will lose traction like that or bury the front like that. So I understand the anxiety that people get when they ride sand, and they're used to the wheels feeling like they're on a train track. Life's good. And then all of a sudden the bike's shaking the handlebars. It's pretty hard to keep your throttle constant. It's pretty hard to add 5% when all you've heard all your life from gurus is lean back and pin it. If you're riding a XR200 or a TDR125 or something with such small output, you can lean back and pin it, and the ramifications are pretty minor because it's not going to do much. Might be what you need to get one of those bikes through a patch of sand. But if you're on a 1200 or an 800 or a 650 and all you've got in your head is lean back and pin it, the consequences just grow. So that's, does that all make sense? It's not rocket science, is it?
So is it still lean back a bit?
Let's keep the bike balanced. I had someone come up to me today and ask me, how deep does the sand need to be to lean back and add throttle? There's no, that sounds like an equation, like once something hits a certain angle, you plus this and minus this, and you're fluid on the bike. So you've got to keep the bike happy and side to side, front to back. And I rode on the way to the Simpson Desert 2 years ago with my mate, who's a really good motocross rider, not a pro, good enduro rider, CrossFit junkie. His legs are about that long. He was on one of Grant's rental bikes, and we were on our way to the Simpson Desert. He couldn't find his mojo, and he was stressing. He didn't want to crash the bike. He hadn't crashed the bike, and I knew he was capable of it, but he was back the whole time, intense. And when you're leaning back, when you don't need to lean back, you're not surfing. You're like a Lego man who's been leaned back 10 degrees. So it wasn't working for him. So when we left Fink to go across the Simpson, he was warming me up that it wasn't for him. And I said, well, look, let's go to Mount Dare, let's check it out and see what happens. And I was hoping he'd find his mojo, and he hadn't for 2 days or 3 days before then. So we had all our fuel on our bikes and luggage and food. So it was a bit of an ask, but he had a good background to get it right. So anyway, that day leaving Fink, I put it on cruise control, I held the mirrors, I stood centered on the bike, and I just moved the bike from moderate sand into heavy sand, and I just foot peg steer the bike. And the bike wanted to do it, and I'm in the middle of the bike. It's like, people screw it up. So anyway, that helped a bit. All of a sudden he relaxed, and then when we got to Mount Dare, you met these guys that have been crashing their brains out on KDMs, and we're still going to do it. And they heard he was having doubts and all this sort of stuff, and they just gave it to him. Because I didn't want to give it to him. Imagine pressuring someone to cross the desert when they're telling you they don't want to, and you just don't do that. They did it for me. And he found his mojo in the day we headed out there, and we did it, and he fell off his bike once. Nothing. And so mojo's important. So when we got the Simpson group going across this year after Fink, I had a group of normal riders, pick 8 or 9 of you guys, and I just said to them, we're going to hit some gravel, there's a culvert, there's the road's the road, there's 2 tyre tracks or 4 tyre tracks, but you've got to get playful, you've got to find your mojo. It doesn't matter if it's me or Shane Booth or Chris Urquhart or someone who's crossed the Simpson Desert 10 times. When you go from bitumen to gravel and you hit your first sand, you've got to recalibrate. And most people's recalibration is holy shit and holy shit and holy shit, and they're doing everything wrong. But if you can warm up to that when it gets a bit gravelly, today was the perfect day to learn how to manage a bike wiggling in some sections. And if you go looking for that and you play in the dips. So I told these 9 riders, I want you guys bouncing, I want you side to side, I want you in the gutters, I want you having a play today, because that's optional and it's on your terms. because tomorrow and for the next 3 days, there's 1,100 sand dunes to cross. And if you haven't gone looking for your mojo, it's not going to land on your lap. Does that make sense? So I see people avoiding every bit of sand this deep when they're about to go on a multi-day sand ride. It's like, don't miss it. Like, use it to get your mojo and to get your confidence, because it has to happen incrementally. You don't just go from a swapper. I'll do questions in a minute. Let me just. Yeah, it's the same. There's no difference. Keep the bike balanced. Give the appropriate inputs. Nothing more, nothing less.
Can I just quickly ask, is Bill Fisher here?
Bill Fisher, right there. So there's a few key things to sand. One is having access to your rear brake, because your rear brake is your brake. If you try to slow down with throttle, it might help you. If you try to slow down with front brake, it's probably going to be catastrophic, depending on the sand. So having access to your rear brake while you're in the standing position or slightly back, that's how you stop. So you're riding along, everything's good, you're killing it, but the guy in front of you crashes. He might make really good traction, it might be a good thing, but probably got negatives. Your instincts at that point has to be clutch in, rear brake, lean back. And the bike will just go with the nose high. And I made the guys practice this. Like, okay, you're gonna need it, obviously. If you get a bit out of control and your speed's building and that little bit more throttle you gave isn't doing what you want to do, and you don't want to just give more, clutch in, rear brake, lean back. The bike will stop. The back wheel will sink like an anchor, and it'll go. So that's really important to know. That's different. Okay, that doesn't help you today on this greasy clay. It doesn't help you on the road. It helps you in sand. So ABS on the rear would be a bad thing, probably, because it's not going to lock up and dig. It's an anchor. ABS is going to make it roll more. So yeah, you can turn your ABS off in deep sand. The only time I've ever turned ABS off, I don't think I turned it off crossing the Simpson the first time, but I turned it off during Fink, because that was a bit silly, and the front wheel, when you need front brake and the ABS is letting it go, it was not a good thing. So crossing the Simpson Enduro Pro, front brake's good, back brake's good. If you don't have Enduro Pro, maybe turn your ABS off. So that's one thing. Everything else, if you're riding along on a good surface and you can see it gets sandy ahead, slow down. The Outback gives you crazy, or even around here, gives you crazy confidence. I can't believe how smooth the pea gravel roads are. It's like they get these special laser plows to just make the most perfect road and then just cover it in millions of tons of ball bearings. We only hit bumps today a few times. Like, it's amazing. So my point there was smooth. Where was I going with that?
Slow down before you.
Yeah. You cruise along. The texture changes. The color changes. First thing I do, a gentle. If you see it early, you can give a really gentle input. Then snick it down a gear. And then look and go, okay, people have died in that hole. This. I can miss everything altogether. Or I want to take that, or I want to take that. And once you've gone down from 100 to 80 to 70 to 60, you can just get it in a torquey gear and just go positive throttle. It's like you're just setting a choke on an old lawnmower or something, just get it, cruise control, that's all you're doing. This is your cruise control. And the thing will go through. If you need to add any, add 2%, 5%. And with your finger over the front brake, not pulling it, you can be, this is like brain surgeon's tool. This, sand, my bike moved 2 millimeters, boom, is no precision, no skill, it's just roll the dice and see what happens. So be precise with your inputs like you would be on slick stuff. And yeah, so corners, it's the same. The bike's going to be tricky. You've got to slow down gradually when